Hello, welcome back to KCal 20. My name is Natalie Elias. For today's segment, we'll be talking about bullying and its effects it's taken on students nationwide. The most recent case has actually popped up in Moreno Valley, California, where in its most extreme case has caused death. Stay tuned for the details. Welcome back. As mentioned, today's segment will be about bullying. It is a very delicate case, but many people are outraged by the most recent case of Diego, who was murdered at his middle school. We have educators from different parts of the world wanting to speak upon the matter. Here is our first speaker. We're going to be introducing Jackie. She is from Riverside, not too far from the incident. Jackie, hello, and what are your thoughts? Thank you, Jackie, for sharing your research findings. Now on to our next speaker. It's going to be Alexandra. Alexandra is from a different part of California, also addressing the matter that happened in Moreno Valley, California.
Hello, Professor Wallace. This is Jacqueline Avila here, and today I'm going to be discussing the long-term effects into adulthood that bullying causes. So to start off this video, I wanted to start off with a little preface about what a bully really is. So bullies can be any age, they can come from anywhere. There's no specific guidelines to being a bully. But bullying can happen to anyone at any age, anywhere, anytime, and it is more common than we think. It happens at places like school, home, and work, and at work it usually gets more legal because they're all adults and you're supposed to be professional. So, bullies are usually described as hot-tempered, aggressive towards others, and destructive to themselves, to others, and to their surroundings. So, there is a big negative connotation for a very good reason. Bullying behaviors include teasing, active exclusion from a social group, which usually occurs in younger years, like elementary school, middle school, and high school. Not including someone in a social activity or in a social group, that's what that means. And physical assaults, where the bullying usually gets more legal if it becomes physical. The second point I wanted to bring up in this video was the research statistics that we found, or that I found for this section of our video. So the first one is that bullies who bullied in their younger years are more likely to drop out of school, whether it be high school or college, because it does trail into higher education as they become adults and they bring the same attitude that they brought from high school, so they are more likely to drop out of school. They are also more likely to carry a weapon, which is a very hot topic in our society today, with the controversy of teachers being armed at school, whether or not it is what they signed up for, whether or not they should be able to carry a gun to defend themselves and their students. So that is a very important one. So yes, it leads to controversy, and they are more likely to carry a weapon. And the third research statistic was that by their mid-20s, they are more likely to have more traffic violations than those who did not bully when they were younger. Not saying that bullying and traffic violations have a direct correlation, but they do have, research has shown that those who have had issues with attitude problems like bullying have had increased traffic violations by their mid-20s. And by their mid-30s, if they were bullied or bullies from grades 6 to 9, which is typically ages 11 to 14, they are more likely to have at least one criminal conviction. Not saying that bullies will have criminal convictions in their futures, but it is a more likely statistic that we found. So the third topic I wanted to talk about in this video was addressing the long-term mental effects that it takes into adulthood. So to preface this section of the video, studies have shown that all parties that are involved in the bullying, which include the victim, the bully, and the victim bully, they all have presented elevated mental health issues. So it's not just the bully and it's not just the victim, it's everyone involved. But the elevated mental issues that could happen include increased risk of depression, anxiety, and psychological distress. And they also can develop an antisocial disorder, which leads to a very lonely time. But since they were bullies in the past, that unattractive attitude that no one will really want to be around, they won't socialize with them, so they won't get the right socializing skills and develop the antisocial disorder. And they are also at increased risk for substance abuse, for prescribed and unprescribed drugs, trying to take out, their feelings on something else. Instead of people, they will abuse drugs. So the final and fourth point that I wanted to bring out in this video was the long-term relational or relationship effects that bullying can cause in adulthood. And this can start with the issues with long-term relations. This includes romantic and casual friendships. Just having those core relationships in your life for a human is really important. So it is troublesome that they lose those long-term relationship skills in their adulthood. Along with those, short-term relationship skills are also very important, like the ones you carry with your colleagues and your boss, to keep a steady economy in life. You have to deal with people like colleagues and bosses, so that is also a very important point. And then the spousal and child abuse through punishment. They are more likely to use more severe physical punishment with children and spouses. And they can still bully their spouses and their children mentally, physically, and emotionally, causing harm to them as well. So to reiterate points that were mentioned in this video, I just wanted to say that we went over what really is a bully, research statistics about the bullies, long-term mental effects that affect the bully, also affecting the victim and everyone involved in the bullying, and the long-term relational and relationship effects that it has in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Our next speaker will be Alexandra, and Alexandra's going to be focusing on how the family life can create a bully. How interesting. So Alexandra, what do you have more about this topic?
Professor Wallace, I'm Alexandra Ballesteros, and I'm going to be talking about how family life plays a role in a child becoming a bully. So it's kind of known that children learn from seeing what their primary caregivers do. So this means that their parents are very powerful role models, and children will mimic the behavior of parents with wanting to be like them. So this often kind of leads to the mentality of, ew, if my dad can do this, so can I. The first role in family life that we're going to be talking about is domestic violence. Domestic violence is the interaction between two partners, which usually include arguing, yelling, fighting, punching. So children who were exposed to this kind of violence in home do tend to engage in higher levels of physical bullying, which is like punching and fighting, than children who were not exposed to this kind of behavior, which, if you think about it, does make sense, because if you see your parents doing something, you're gonna think that's okay. So kids who do engage in physical bullying obviously have been exposed to it at a young age, and domestic violence is actually not the only form of violence that children are exposed to in a household. This also includes sibling bullying, which is actually pretty significant. So sibling bullying is if you have a sibling, you twist their arm, you nudge on their head, you push them around, you put them in a headlock. All of that stuff is considered sibling bullying, and it causes kind of a sense of powerlessness to the one that is being twisted or being headlocked. So that person, the sibling, will often regain that power by going back and doing the same thing to someone in school, or even doing it to a younger sibling, which just kind of creates a cycle between siblings, but it also is physical bullying for the other person at school. So this is a level of physical aggression between siblings, which is another form of family violence. And it does influence bullying behavior. Although violence does play a big role in a family life and a child growing up to be a bully, it is not the only thing. Having a lack of a warm relationship between a parent and child will also increase the risk of a child being a bully. So this kind of includes like a parent not really being interested in what their kid does, whether it's sports or academically. This is also kind of being cold towards your child. So kind of giving the cold shoulder, always brushing them off, or even excessive teasing, you know, oh wow, I can't believe you're doing that. Or even just acting like they're not liked or wanted, like, oh, I wish I didn't have you, you know, your other sibling's so much better, why can't you be like them? This also includes a lack of nurturing. So, you know, nature versus nurture does play a big role in a child. So if you're not nurturing your kid, they're not going to have that warm feeling, and they're not going to have that emotional support either. Emotional support's really important because the child does need someone to go to when they're going through something rather than resulting to violence. So if a parent and a child doesn't bond, if a parent and a child does not bond, that is a lack of warm relationship. So if they don't bond, that basically just means that either the parent is not putting in the effort to take that child out and maybe go see a movie, play games, color for a little bit, or maybe they just simply don't get along and they're always arguing, which is not a good relationship. This also includes a low interest in what they're doing, not really caring. They have no empathy for their children's problems. If a child's going through something and they can't go and say, hey mom, like, this kid is just bullying me, then that kid's gonna go and bully someone else because they don't have that warm relationship with their parents. And lastly, harsh discipline does play a big role in family life and as well as a child becoming a bully. So this kind of includes shaming, insulting, yelling, threatening, or even physically disciplining your kids. You know, you can't go and tell your kid to not be a wimp. That is gonna trigger something and then becoming a bully. And actually several studies do confirm an association between strict parenting styles and the child's likelihood of becoming a bully. Actually, in a recent study, University of Washington and Arizona State conducted a retrospective study of 419 kids and found that authoritative parents, which are more like loving and caring, the risk of their child becoming a bully lowered significantly from permissive and authoritarian parents, which are more strict, that had a positive correlation with a child becoming a bully. So it's pretty clear that when your parenting style is a lot more loving and nurturing, it will lower the risk of your kid becoming a bully. Some additional things to just mention is that essentially parents do model these bullying behaviors to the children with the way they discipline them or the way that they experience domestic violence. That is showing your kid how to discipline someone by punching them or fighting them, or how to fight with someone. And actually for females, the risk of them becoming a bully was more correlated with physical violence. So that would be like punching, versus where for boys, it was more correlated with psychological aggressive discipline, which is more like yelling at them and threatening them. So ultimately, if you don't want to raise a bully, don't be a bully to your kids, because your kids will get hurt by that, and hurt people do hurt people back. And family is actually like the first system of socialness that a child will experience, and that child will absorb everything that is happening in that social system and take it out to another social system, and that will be their whole.
Thank you, Alexandra. Our next speaker is going to be Kaya. Kaya is going to be focusing on the effects of the school system and social life on bullying, and how it has also taken part on this matter of Diego in Moreno Valley, California.
Counselor at a local high school, and I'm here today to talk to you about some of the main topics amongst bullying in kids. There are three main types of bullying. There is verbal abuse, or like verbal bullying, which can include things like teasing or taunting or name calling and things of that sort. And then there's also social bullying, which could include like leaving somebody out of a certain activity or spreading rumors about that person that are not necessarily true, or even if they are true, just going behind a person's back. That is also considered social bullying. And then there's physical bullying, which is obvious things like hitting and kicking, but it can also be things that are less common, like stealing somebody's clothing or breaking somebody's phone and things like that. I think it's very important to discuss the kind of students who are likely to bully other kids and the signs that you could be looking for. And so between the ages of 3 and 5, children are developing social skills. And if while they're developing social skills you notice that a child is leaning more towards an aggressive manner, like they think that violence is a good thing, or they're disruptive in class, or if they tend to have more of an issue following rules, then those would just be some things that you'd be looking for. And in school, this continues on, and this is things that you could be looking for if you notice that a child is bullying another kid, or if you believe that he is. These are some things you could be looking for. So it is, they view violence positively. Again, they seem to be more popular and they like to keep it that way, so they value their reputation very highly, and they have a very big ego as well. These types of students will also be very low-tempered, and they will also have friends who bully. Usually a bully is not just one on his own, it is usually accompanied by a group of people. But also, on the flip side, these students are the ones who have more home life issues that could be triggering them to become the bully. And for kids who are bullied, there are certain students that are more at risk, such as poverty-stricken students, or they could be racially different in a certain demographic. So if the demographic of the school is leaning towards Mexican and you are an African American student, they could be picking on you. Or if you're in a more African American environment and you are Caucasian, the Caucasian student might end up getting picked on more because they're just racially different. Or for things as simple as having glasses or braces, or say you're like on crutches or something that makes you seem odd or different or weak. And these students may also already have some kind of depression or anxiety, or a visible awareness of the fact that they have a very low self-confidence. Or these students may also just not have very good social skills at all, so they may just be very introverted and sheltered and shy, which bullies may abuse that as a type of weakness or exploit that. So warning signs of bullying if you are a parent. For the person who is being bullied, like say your child is coming home with things like unexplained injuries, or their clothing is being destroyed, or a loss of clothing, or just losing items randomly. It might be that the bully is stealing these things from them. They might end up making it actually different in a certain demographic. So if the demographic of the school is leaning towards Mexican and you are an African American student, they could be picking on you. Or if you're in a more African American environment and you are Caucasian, the Caucasian student might end up getting picked on more because they're just racially different. Or for things as simple as having glasses or braces, or say you're like on crutches or something that makes you seem odd or different or weak. And these students may also already have some kind of depression or anxiety, or a visible awareness of the fact that they have a very low self-confidence. Or these students may also just not have very good social skills at all, so they may just be very introverted and sheltered and shy, which bullies may abuse that as a type of weakness or exploit that. So warning signs of bullying if you are a parent. For the person who is being bullied, like say your child is coming home with things like unexplained injuries, or their clothing is being destroyed, or a loss of clothing, or just losing items randomly. It might be that the bully is stealing these things from them. They might end up making up excuses to not go to school, so they might end up seeming like they're getting sick more often, or they have headaches more often, or stomach aches, and things that you may not be able to see, but things that only they can feel, and they may also put themselves into a self-isolation and start falling into a depression, or start falling into having anxiety, and these things could come out in like night sweats and nightmares, and even just like physical appearances as well. And now if your child is the bully and you believe that your son or daughter is messing with or picking on another child, these are some warning signs as well. They might be very argumentative naturally, and they might want and feed off of the anger and aggression off of other people, or the hurting and sorrow of other people. And so the bully might also themselves tend to be more aggressive. And this isn't just like in violence, isn't like physical violence. They might just be aggressive verbally, and like even just like in sibling rivalry stuff, if you notice that your child is even picking on their brother or sister in a certain way, that means that they could also be doing it to another child as well. If your child is having unexplained possessions such as money or clothing, or just like knickknacks or watches or phones or things like that, and you're wondering where your child is getting all of this from, it could be that they are taking it from another student, and that you'll notice that your child has a very big ego, and that they worry a lot about their reputation, specifically with their peers, not so much with their teachers or things like that. And these things are not to be taken lightly. Recently, there was a case in Moreno Valley where a 13-year-old little boy had died from physical bullying. And so the bullying is not to be taken lightly. It is something that is very...
As technology advances, so does bullying. So bullying has taken a new stage, and that is called the social media. Now, we call bullying on social media cyberbullying. More on this topic, Alyssa is going to be speaking about her experiences or her knowledge on cyberbullying. Alyssa?
And I'm back, reporting live from Paris, France, about an issue that has gone globally, not just nationwide, but globally across the world. I am here to inform you today about cyberbullying. In recent years, cyberbullying has just been on the rise, and it looks like there's no end in sight. But let me tell you first what cyberbullying is. Cyberbullying is a form of bullying or harassment using electronic means. Bullying has always been around and is something that people have been trying to put an end to for years. In the past, such as like our parents' age and our grandparents' age, bullying has always just been a face-to-face confrontation. Whereas recently, with the use of social media, text messages, and email, cyberbullying has been a lot easier to do, and especially in our day and age with everyone having phones and some type of technology or use to internet, it is the way to bully now. Online, there's more people that can see, and it reaches not just the people at your school or in your city, it can reach globally. And of course, in the past, like when students would face bullying face to face, they would go home and feel safe. Well, that no longer is relevant to today's society. People, especially the youth and children, go home and still feel just as unsafe as they did at school, because they know when they go look online or they check their phone, there is going to be some type of harassment or nasty things said about them online for not just them to see, but for everyone else to see. And social media is one of the big causes for cyberbullying because there's not always the privacy or protection needed to stop this issue. And especially a lot of younger kids just want to have followers and have more friends online, so they'll accept anyone or have a public profile. Thus, we're making it very easy for people to comment and be nasty and mean to young children today. As I stated before, social media is not all negative. It is a good way to connect with family and friends, but it also allows people to remain anonymous and makes it a lot easier for things to be said online. According to a research done by Hinduja and Patisha, 34% of students report experiencing cyberbullying. And I'm sure if we look back like even 10 years ago, that number would have been a lot less. And that's because of the way technology has just been going recently, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. So everything's going to be a smartphone this, and everything's smart TVs and all of that. And it's just on the rise, causing further issues for cyberbullying. Because of the increased number of cyberbullying, the youth are at an increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school, according to the CDC. So obviously, these young people are at an age where they need to grow, and we've learned about this, that development at a young age is very important, and they won't be able to do that if they feel they are unsafe, and it starts leading to these things such as depression and anxiety, and sleep is important as well, and if they're losing that, it just starts a downward spiral for these children, and it just becomes a lot harder for them to start living their life. Let's see what else. Since cyberbullying has been on the rise, so has self-harm and suicidal rates. So 1 in 4 girls will self-harm and 1 in 10 boys will self-harm. So obviously there's a big numbers difference between the boys and the girls. And that is because girls tend to have more social media and just want to be out there and connect with more people and their friends. So they're more likely to have public profiles or just have anyone that can comment, and therefore it makes it a lot easier for other girls to be mean and nasty and just catty at a young age, and allowing hate to go on for other girls' pictures, whereas boys at this age don't really care about social media. They'd rather go hang out with their friends or just be outside playing their sport. So that's the difference between the boys and the girls when it comes to self-harm at this age and with social media as a whole. Because of this, it allows girls to be mean to each other online, as I stated, and it just allows other girls to be anonymous. And they can pose as catfish, trying to be prettier and all of that, where they can bully other girls or just be mean to girls that they do not like. According to the CDC, suicidal ideation and attempts among adolescents have nearly doubled since 2008, thus making suicide the second leading cause of death among 10 to 34-year-olds. And that's just something really sad, and we see it all the time on the news that another kid in high school or even elementary school has committed suicide. And a lot of this is because of bullying, not just at school, but also online. And that's just something that needs to be stopped, and something in schools that we need to really look at. And then because of this, a lot of kids have reported or have not reported that they have been cyberbullied. They leave and go unreported, and it just makes it really hard for them, and they deal with these things alone. And then that not having it be reported leads to mental health issues such as low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, and family problems, as I stated before. So when this goes left unchecked, students have to deal with very difficult feelings and emotions as they're trying to grow, making it very hard for them to develop and grow into a healthy human being and just having a great mental health overall, because when you deal with low self-esteem at a young age, it's really going to affect you, and it just makes it harder for you to go on trusting people and then allowing people to help you, and then of course family problems, so acting out, feeling you're not good enough, or any of this. And this has become such a widespread issue across the nation and across the globe, and this has been Alyssa Lathrop, reporting live from Paris.
We want to thank everyone for tuning in. Join us next time for our next segment next week.